Hey, this is Daniel Vitalis from SirThrival.com, and you're listening to Justin and Kate on Extreme Health Radio. And I'm just here to remind you to rewild yourself.
Welcome to Extreme Health Radio. Extreme Health Radio.
Where natural solutions to almost every health condition are out there. Join us on our journey to find them.
Now here are your hosts,
Broadcasting from sunny Southern California around the world.
Justin and Kate Stellman.
So how many people in your life, Kate, do you know that have chronic fatigue syndrome or emotionally eat? A lot of people?
99.9. Yeah, I know. Those are two huge issues, which I'm excited to talk about today with Dr. Nelson.
Yeah, we have Dr. Bradley Nelson on, and he was on episode number 87, for those of you who have never heard him before. Amazing guy. We're honored to have him on the show. And my name is Justin, and this is my wife,
Kate. Hello. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on this 9/11 day.
That's right, 9/11.
Yep.
I last checked, I think I told you yesterday, 153 countries were.
Yeah.
Crazy, isn't
Yeah.
it? Wow. Just
Awesome.
nuts. So I want to thank all of you for joining us. It's a cloudy day here in Southern California. Hopefully it's sunny wherever you are and life's treating you well. We're broadcasting worldwide, like I said, from Southern California. We do shows 4 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And if you'd like to follow what we have going on Facebook, join the community, keep up to date with our shows, and listen to past shows, things like that, you can join us, extremehealthradio.com/Facebook. And this is Wednesday, September 11th, 2013?
That's right.
So September 11th, that was 12 years ago?
12 years today.
My gosh.
I know.
Time is flying by.
Yep.
That is crazy.
It's a much better way to be spending it today.
Yes. A little better September 11th
Yeah,
today.
just a little.
12 years ago. This is episode number 150. So you could go to extremehealthradio.com/150 and make comments about the show, or you could read the transcript in time when we have that up there, or any show notes you can check out on that show page. So make sure to check that out. And there's a number of different ways to join the show if you want. You can email me, Justin, at extremehealthradio.com.
Or Kate, Kate, at extremehealthradio.com.
Or you could join us via voicemail, and you can send a voicemail straight from your computer if you like. Just go to extremehealthradio.com/voicemail. And another thing, too, if you guys would like to support us on Amazon, it would be really great if you could do that this holiday season or anytime you purchase on Amazon. That'll help pay the bills and support the show. You can go to Amazon and bookmark it from extremehealthradio.com/Amazon and bookmark that for us, and that would help give us a little commission on every order. And today we have Bradley Nelson, Dr. Bradley Nelson on the show, and he has, I'm going to say, a bevy of websites. You like that?
That's great.
A bevy of websites. And I think he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 websites, probably more, but you can find him on the emotioncode.com or healerslibrary.com, and he's got a bunch of other ones too that we'll put up on this website show page, emotioncode.tv and other ones as well. And he is the author of the book called The Emotion Code, which we have read. Mm-hmm. And it's just a really, really great book. So I want to thank you, Dr. Nelson, for being on today. How you doing?
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Justin and Kate, for having me back on.
Oh, excellent.
We're honored.
Now, I forget, are you I have this feeling that you're in Arizona. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
You know what? I'm really close to Arizona. I'm about 4 miles from the Arizona border, way down in the extreme southwestern tip of Utah, in the corner there, right near Zion National Park. And Red Rock Country, where they used to film a lot of the old John Wayne movies. Really beautiful.
That's right. We just, I was going to say Utah. Shoot, I mixed up Utah with Colorado. I was going to say we just interviewed a guest from Colorado, and I was thinking it was Utah.
Not even close.
Oh, wow. So that's
Pretty
great.
close.
So how are things going? The Emotion Code is still selling well and doing well?
Oh yeah, it's just exploding. I mean, it's amazing all over the world. We just got a box of books from our publisher in mainland China. So we now have the book in Mandarin Chinese.
Oh my gosh.
And Yeah, we've got we have all kinds of things going on. Well, we're on a mission to take this work to the whole world as fast as we possibly can, because it's so powerful and it's just changing people's lives literally all over the world. So I can't imagine anything more exciting that I could possibly be doing.
Yeah, and you have a ton of different products I was looking at last night on your website. And are you working on any new books or anything like that?
Actually we are. The next book that we're going to be coming out with, the working title of it right now is called The Walls Around Our Hearts. And it's going to be about the heart wall and how the trapped emotional energies that we accumulate during our lifetime will often form a wall around our heart to protect our heart from being totally broken. It's really like a force field around the heart. It's this invisible energy that you can't see, but it's there. And it interferes with our ability to fall in love and to find our soulmate and to manifest abundance in this world, and creates depression and anxiety and all kinds of, it's just an amazing thing. I don't know if we talked about that on our last call or not.
I believe we did. We touched a little bit on that. Yeah, that was really...
Obviously, that's such a huge, if you're going to write a whole book or are writing a whole book about it, that is something that people are going to be able to delve in. So, that's the whole thing. I'm sure it stems around the heart wall, and that's big stuff.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. Yeah. I got it's so funny because sometimes we get testimonials from people that we're not expecting. And we got one recently from a woman who had she had, I think, six or eight chickens, and she was raising these chickens for eggs, and two of the older chickens were really, really mean and would brutalize these other chickens and peck them to a point where they were almost bloody, and they were just terrifying these other chickens.
Wow.
And in fact, one of the really meanest chicken was a black chicken they called Blackie, and they had to keep this. They would have to hang on to this chicken while the other chickens went into the hen house and fell asleep on their nests, because if they weren't asleep, this Blackie chicken would go in and just throw them all out of there and chase them away. So it was crazy, and they looked it up online, and they looked up, what do you do for a bullying chicken? and the advice online was, well, that's the chicken that you eat, and they didn't want to eat the chicken. So they called an emotion code practitioner. This woman had terrible back pain. And so she found an emotion code practitioner who came over and worked on her and took her back pain totally away. And now she's back running on concrete, which she hasn't been able to do for a long time. And so she thought, maybe I'll try the emotion code, because she had heard that the emotion code would work for horses and dogs and cats. So she called the same practitioner. He came over, cleared a couple of trapped emotions on these two really mean chickens, and it was absolutely night and day. In fact, she recorded a video where she follows these chickens around, and they're all just getting along fine now. No more of the weird, angry, bullying behavior. So if it'll work for a chicken, think what it could do for you.
I can only imagine, what kind of trapped emotion could a chicken have?
Right.
One of them had
parent issues.
I think, she describes it online. I think one of them had fear and some other emotion, and then the other one had, I think it was unsupported, or I don't know. But, wow. We use the same chart of emotions for animals as we do for people. So there's really not much difference. If you learn how to do the emotion code for people, you automatically know how to do it for animals. And it's amazing. We have seen so many just incredible things happen with animals. Now, I had never worked on a chicken. And I have to confess, I didn't really think that chickens had a brain.
Yeah, I was going to say, how deep can their issues go?
I can't imagine the next one you're going to get from like a rat or a skunk or something. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because they did a study recently. I was reading about this, that they found that insects have their own personalities, and they've tested this. And so you wouldn't think that, but I guess that now whether they experience emotions or not, I don't know. Maybe they do. Who knows? I've never worked on a bug, but
that's amazing.
Wow.
But I have worked on a lot of people with chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yeah,
and a lot of people with emotional eating.
So what do you think is going on with chronic fatigue? I see it all the time with people, especially when I'll see them, eat and then 20 minutes later they'll crash, and it's just this cycle that people go through. And chronic fatigue, it's got to be a lot bigger than I would think, because the people that I run into are more healthy, health conscious. But
yeah, what does a typical chronic fatigue patient look like?
Well, they look just like you or me or Justin. They look just like normal people. And the reality is chronic fatigue syndrome is one of these things that you can't tell by looking at someone that they're sick. And I specialize in working with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, which often goes along with chronic fatigue, for quite a number of years. And what I found with these people was that they get imbalanced in certain ways. And let me explain to you how this works. You see, the oldest idea in the history of healing is that it's really all about balance. If your body is balanced in every way, then you'll be healthy. If your body becomes imbalanced in enough ways, if it becomes imbalanced enough, you start to manifest symptoms. It's kind of like this. You can think of your health as being like a plane that's flying along straight and level, and stress is like the turbulence that we get into, and in a plane. And so sometimes we get into difficulty with marriage or job or finances or whatever it is, and that's like turbulence. And sometimes if you're in a plane and you get into turbulence, sometimes it can throw you into a spin. And what happens to people, what I found is that 85% of people are in a downward spiral as far as their health goes. They're actually in a tailspin, like in a plane, because of the stress that they've been under. And sometimes it's a sudden thing. Sometimes it's an auto accident, or sometimes it's, their spouse asks them for a divorce, and that's what throws them into a spin. Well, what happens is, as you continue to spin downward, at first you don't really notice anything. You don't know that your health is spiraling down. But eventually, one of the most common things that starts to happen is you lose your energy. And so these people gradually get more and more fatigued, and eventually they wake up one day and they realize, wow, I'm not just fatigued, I'm totally, utterly exhausted. I can barely do anything. There must be something really wrong with me. So they go to the doctor and they say, doctor, I'm chronically fatigued. I've got this terrible fatigue. It won't go away. I've had it all this time, and I don't know what to do. And the doctor talks to them and asks some questions and looks some things up in his book, and he comes back and he says, we know what's wrong with you. We've got a diagnosis. And the person's so excited to know what's wrong with them, and the doctor says, you have chronic fatigue syndrome. And so typically this person will go home and call their friend, and they'll say, oh my gosh, I know what's wrong with me. And they'll say, the doctor diagnosed me, I have chronic fatigue syndrome. And the friend will say, oh my gosh, that's amazing. You said you were chronically fatigued. And really, the doctor hasn't told them anything that they didn't already know, right? They're chronically fatigued. And of course, the doctor says, well, we don't really know what causes this. We don't know what to do about it. Here, take these medications. That's all you can do. You'll have this for the rest of your life, blah, blah, blah. The reality, though, is that it's these different kinds of imbalances that combine to drag us down to a point where we're fatigued. And so there are a number of things that go together to create this.
Really quickly, Dr. Nelson, is chronic fatigue the same as fibromyalgia, or are they two different things?
No, they're two different things. Fibromyalgia is where you get pain typically all over the body, and they often go together, though, chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. Okay. And the reason why is because as you get more and more imbalanced and you spiral further and further down in that downward trajectory, what happens is there are the two most common signs that you are in that downward spiral is A, loss of energy, which eventually gets diagnosed for a lot of people as chronic fatigue, and B, pain. And so the people who seem to have more pain will end up finally waking up and realizing, man, I've got pain all over. I'm not getting well. Something's wrong with me. They go to the doctor and they say, doctor, I've got pain all over the body. It's in my muscles. It's not going away. What's wrong with me? And the doctor pokes him and prods him and looks it up in his book. And he comes back and he says, you've got fibromyalgia, which means pain in the muscles.
Okay.
And so then they call their friend and they say, oh my gosh, the doctor's a genius. He told me I've got fibromyalgia, that means pain in the muscles. And the friend says, oh my gosh, that's amazing. You said you had pain in your muscles, right?
Right.
It's kind of silly, but that's what goes on, see? So here's what happens to us, all right? There are 6 different kinds of imbalances that we suffer from. Now, in all the years that I was working with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue patients, I saw people from all over the US and Canada, and there were very few occasions where we weren't able to get somebody completely well. And here are the 6 kinds of imbalances that combine that create these symptoms, okay? One of these things is pathogens, okay? Oftentimes people with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia and other diseases too, by the way, these are the 6 underlying causes not only for chronic fatigue, but also for fibromyalgia and cancer and everything else, every other disease that you can possibly think of.
The body's a whole unit. I mean, yeah, these things all work together.
Yeah. And so what I found is that if I could rebalance the body in these 6 ways, all kinds of things would get better. I mean, I had clients who had fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue for years and years. In fact, let me tell you a story. I was speaking at a fibromyalgia support group in Orange County and in California, and there was a woman there who there were about 50 people in this group, and this one particular woman I noticed cried through my whole presentation. And when I was done, she told me that she cried every day because she was in so much pain with her fibromyalgia, and she had chronic fatigue as well. And she'd seen about 19 different doctors during the course of these. Well, actually, it was 19 years that she'd had this, and she'd seen, I think, 9 different doctors. They'd all told her the same thing. Nothing can be done, what you have is incurable, take these drugs, etc. Wow. And it took me 3 weeks to get her out of pain. 3 weeks after 19 years. Think about that. How do we do that? Well, how we did that was by simply bringing the body back into a state of balance in these areas. Now, she's a classic example. She had every kind of imbalance I'm going to mention to you right now. Okay. There are 6 imbalances, and you can write these down if you want to, and then I'll come back and explain what these are. The first one is pathogens, okay? The second one is misalignments. The second one is nutrition. Or I'm sorry, that's the third one. The fourth one is toxicity.
Okay.
The next one is circuits. And then the last one is energies. So let me explain what these are. Now, of course, pathogens, I think everybody knows we can get infections, viral infections, bacterial, fungal, mold infections. These are really, really common. And a lot of the time we have low-grade infection in the body that's not really able to be picked up on Western medical testing. And yet, when you have a pathogen living in the body, your immune system is fighting it. It's not getting the upper hand. You feel, well, you don't feel well. And pathogens can create all kinds of problems. Parasites are very common. You don't have to go out of the country to get them. 85% of the people in the U.S. have parasites. Parasites urinate and defecate in your tissues. And this is one of the reasons why you get pain in the tissues and pain in the muscles. Parasites are very common. Another kind of imbalance. Go ahead.
Are there other types of pathogens like viruses or maybe fungus and things like that? Or are those not?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yes. Parasites, fungal, bacterial, viral, and mold are the 5 kinds of pathogens. So that's one area. If you've got a pathogen living in your body, you have to do something to get rid of that pathogen, okay? And that just makes sense, common sense, right? Another big category of imbalance is misalignments. Now, what I found when I was in practice is that any kind of tissue can misalign. Chiropractors, and I'm a chiropractor, that was my training, we think of bones in the spine primarily as misaligning, and that's the worst kind of misalignment to get because that creates irritation and interference in the nervous system. But there are other kinds of tissues that can misalign. In fact, any kind of tissue can become misaligned. In fact, let me tell you a story. I had a patient that came to me one time who had this terrific pain from her. She'd had an auto accident, of course, and she came into my office. She had pain from the base of her neck on the left side that radiated all the way down to the left shoulder, and it wasn't going away. Well, I started working on her and adjusting her and correcting her neck and her spine, and I corrected everything that I could find. Structurally, I couldn't find out. She wasn't getting any better. I'd been working on her for about 3 weeks, and the pain was just as bad as the day that it happened. I sent her next door to my office to have an MRI scan, which they did. They did this scan of her neck, and her neck looked absolutely textbook perfect, normal. I couldn't figure it out. So what I started to do is I started to ask some questions of the subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind of every individual knows exactly what's wrong with them in absolute perfect detail. And I came to rely on accessing that internal database, that internal computer, for all the work that I did. And without accessing that internal computer, there's no way I could have had the success that I had. But I started asking questions of her body and getting answers through muscle testing. And what I found was that her heart had actually become misaligned in this accident. And it had actually gotten misaligned forward in her chest. And so I thought, well, that's kind of strange. Well, maybe I can try to move that heart back into position. Well, obviously, I couldn't touch the heart itself. But what I did is, with her permission, I just placed the flat of my hand on her sternum and then gave it a good solid thump with the intention of realigning that heart. And would you believe her pain that she'd had nonstop for 3 weeks was instantaneously gone.
Oh,
instantaneously.
What?
Wow, that's great.
What in the...
We have to take a little break here, but this is a good time to take a break. That is amazing.
Okay, I want to come back to that when we get back.
My gosh.
That's crazy.
All right, we're with Dr. Bradley Nelson, and I'm sure you're finding this information to be fascinating information, and you can look him up on the emotioncode.com and healerslibrary.com, as well as drbradleynelson.com.
I think you should have another .com, the chickenandheartdoctor.com.
That would be great. Oh, man. So we'll be right back with Dr. Bradley Nelson after this short break. I do a lot of weightlifting and lifting heavy weights at the gym, and I love it. But there's also another side to working out, which actually helps you increase the energy in your body. As you know, in our culture, just about everything is a stress to our body. It depletes us of life force energy and our energy in general, whether it's, coworkers or getting to work or dealing with difficult family members, things like that. All of these things cause stress and energy depletion in our body. And something like Qigong is a really great way to help cultivate your inner energy. And it's been practiced by people in the East for thousands of years. It's put together by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar. You can find it at extremehealthradio.com/Qigong, which is Qigong. And it's called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. And I highly recommend getting this product. It comes as a physical product to your house with really great DVDs and workbooks on how to do this ancient art of cultivating your inner energy and building that core energy of your body. And it's been practiced, like I said, for thousands of years. So I highly, highly recommend checking it out. If nothing else, just go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong, Qigong, and get on their mailing list because they'll send you lots of free information as well. So check out Peter Ragnar. He looks amazing for how old he is. He's been doing this for like 60 years or something. It's really an amazing product. So check it out, extremehealthradio.com/Qigong.
100% listener supported. Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Don't forget to join our thriving community for health tips, inspiration, and show updates at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook.
All right, we're having a good time here with Dr. Bradley Nelson from theemotioncode.com and healerslibrary.com. Really, really fascinating information. And I just wanted to let you guys know, please check out our sponsors that we run ads for during the show. Not just because it benefits us, but we only really promote products that benefit you guys and that we use ourselves and have tested and looked at and really researched. So that Qigong course is really great. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan Truscott, that's episode number 127. Good stuff on that Qigong course. And as the lady said, don't forget to follow us on Facebook. We'd love to have you join our little community. It's always growing, and it would be great to have you on that community. And Dr. Nelson, before the break, we were talking about the lady that you were working with and her heart being out of place. And, I've never heard of that in terms of tissues being out of place like that, but it makes sense, Yeah.
Well, the reality is that any tissue in the body can become, misaligned. And then that affects the function of that tissue. So that's another big category that I found I had to look at if I was going to help people to get well. Now, of course, another one that's probably really obvious is nutrition. If you're not getting the right nutrition, if you're deficient in certain vitamins or minerals, if you need certain herbs or you need to maybe eat or avoid certain foods and things, then that's another thing that has to be looked at. Toxicity, of course, is another huge one. There are different kinds of toxins. There are energetic toxins that I would look at. For example, obvious things like chemicals, things like vaccinations, medications that people are taking, food additives like MSG and aspartame. A lot of people are in pain because of what they're eating, because they don't realize that they're filling their body with poisons. And a lot of people will buy their food at the grocery store and they don't realize they're filling their body with pesticides and herbicides from the produce that looks great, but is laced with chemicals, and a lot of it now is genetically modified as well, and that causes all kinds of problems. So you have to be really aware of toxicity, and there are ways to detoxify the body as well. So that's another huge category. And then I mentioned circuitry. Now, the circuitry of the body has to do with a couple of interesting things. It has to do, of course, with the acupuncture system, the meridians and the flows of energy in the body. But there are some other really fascinating things that I've discovered that we look at. One of those things is that parts of the body can become disconnected from other parts. And I found this actually with morning sickness. My wife, our youngest daughter is 13 right now. And when my wife was pregnant with her, she was really sick with morning sickness. And one day she asked me, she was really begging me, you've got to help me. I'm so sick. There's got to be something we can do. And I was in the habit all those years as I was working with people of asking for help from up above, just offering a silent prayer, trying to connect with that higher power, because I believe that's the source of everything. And that's where all the good information comes from.
Right.
And so I did that. I thought about it. I thought, okay, well, there are different things you can do for morning sickness, and nothing really works. And there are medications for it, but then that's very toxic, of course, and dangerous. So I offered this silent prayer, and I said, there's got to be a better way to look at this. And I got an answer that just flowed into my mind from up above. And the answer was that basically it has to do with disconnection, that the body and the mind of the mother, until it's connected on an energetic level with that fetus, and not only the fetus, but also all the parts there, the placenta, the amniotic fluid, the cord, everything, until there's a full connection going on there energetically, you'll have morning sickness. It's a fascinating thing. And so I found this on my wife, and I was able to reconnect these things that were disconnected in her body, and instantly the morning sickness was gone. Now, it lasted for a few days, and then it started to come back again, and one of these little connections had broken, so I had to work on her, I think about 3 times. We never had another problem.
Did you do this with the principles in the emotion code, or was it something different?
Well, actually, what I'm talking to you about right now is something that we call the body code. And the emotion code is part of the body code. But the body code is this whole method that I developed during those years that I was in practice. And so this is in the body code. The body code now is actually the most advanced self-study course that we sell on energy healing that exists in the world. What happened was about 3.5 years ago, I woke up one morning and my mind was full of instruction, and the instruction was really clear, and it said, and I was being told this, you need to take everything you know about natural healing and put it into a self-study course that anyone can have and make it available to everybody. And so we did that. And you can read more about that at a website called bodycodehealing.com. Anyway, so I got really excited about this morning sickness thing, right? And I know we're getting off on a tangent.
No, it's great information. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Well, so, and I tried this with different women, and it worked every time. And it was amazing because typically women would be sick and just, the back of their throat watering and ready to throw up. And I would make these connections, okay? And you use muscle testing and you ask questions, and then you can use you can use your fingertips and you run the fingertips down one of the meridians just really quickly. It just takes seconds, really. And it's amazing. When you make those connections, the morning sickness is just instantaneously gone. I'm not kidding you. And typically what the women say is, oh my gosh, I'm going to go eat something, because they're always starving because they're so sick, right?
Right.
It's really funny. But anyway, so I got all excited and I thought, this is amazing. And I put a big ad in the paper. And I guess the morning sick women were too sick to come in. I got one woman who came in on the study that I had launched. And I helped her, but everybody else was too sick. So anyway, that's part of it. And some other things that happen with the circuit area are things like imbalances in the chakras. And listen to this, the organs get imbalanced as well. Now, here's what's really amazing. Organs and glands all connect up with certain muscles in the body. And so if you have an imbalance, for example, in your gallbladder, that imbalance creates another imbalance, and that's an imbalance in the back of the right knee. So if you have pain in your right knee, there's about a 99% chance that you have an imbalance in your gallbladder. And who would know that, right?
Wow.
If you have pain in your low back, well, there are a few things that can cause that, but oftentimes it's kidney, okay? And there are some other things as well. If you have pain in your left knee, that's almost always from the left adrenal gland. And so if you think about the body is set up in such an interesting way, it's kind of like this. Let me explain. Let's imagine you're in your bathroom and you plug in too many blow dryers and too many curling irons, and all of a sudden you blow the fuse in your bathroom.
All done that, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, so the light goes out in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. Well, in the next room, your stereo that's playing your favorite song, it may suddenly shut off too. Now that'll only happen if the stereo is on the same what?
On the same circuit.
On the same circuit, right? Now, in the body, the organs and glands each have a circuit. And so certain muscles are on these circuits. So if you overload, for example, your kidney, that imbalances the deep muscles in the low back, okay? And also the trapezius muscles. And so this is the reason why a lot of people end up having problems with the neck and with the low back, and because they've got a kidney imbalance. And a lot of the time, the people that have the most low back pain are the ones that are drinking coffee, because coffee toxifies the kidneys and will imbalance the kidneys. And so some of the worst cases of low back pain that I saw when I was in practice were people who were drinking lots of coffee, or they were drinking a lot of black tea and things like that. And so that's one of the hidden things going on in the body. So in other words, if you have pain in your body, you may have an imbalance in an organ that's actually imbalancing the muscles that are connected to the joints, and that's really the underlying cause. Well, here's what I found during all those years, and this takes us to the next kind of imbalance.
Hey, Dr.
Energies.
Nelson, really quickly, I wanted to ask you: is this a two-way street? Can organs be damaged by things that happen to the muscles?
Well, generally not.
Okay.
No, I never did ever see that.
Okay.
But it's a fascinating thing, and what I found was that let me give you an example. A woman came into me one time, and this applies to fibromyalgia, it applies to chronic fatigue, it applies to everything, because these are the underlying imbalances that cause all of our difficulties. And there's a lot of different kinds of imbalances that can happen, but in the body code, we make it really easy. Anybody can find these and fix these. So a woman came into me one time who was somewhat overweight, and her knees were killing her. And she said, Dr. Nelson, I can't jazzercise anymore because my knees are bothering me, hurting me so much. She said, I went to the doctor. He said, it's overuse. She said, you've got to help me, because if I can't jazzercise, I'm not going to be able to lose weight. And if I can't lose weight, I'm afraid my marriage is going to fall apart. So I thought, well, no pressure here.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So, but anyway, what I found was she had emotional imbalance. See, the most common underlying reason for almost everything that we suffer from is actually our emotional baggage. It's our trapped emotions. And she had some trapped emotions that were affecting her gallbladder. That was creating the right knee pain. She had trapped emotions affecting her left adrenal gland. That was affecting her left knee and causing the left knee pain. So I cleared those out. And within about 24 hours, she was totally pain-free. So that's why I wrote the book, The Emotion Code, because you see, 90% of our pain is due to our emotional baggage trying to manifest, trying to let us know. It's really interesting. When you go through some emotional experience and you develop a trapped emotion, that emotional energy will try to make its presence known to you somehow. It's really funny. Usually it's pain because it imbalances the body. And I mean, I can't even tell you hundreds, thousands of times where people are in acute physical pain. There's an emotion that's behind that pain. If either one of you has pain right now, we can probably get rid of it. You're probably not, though. You're so healthy.
Yeah. I feel pretty good at the moment.
Do you feel pretty good?
Yeah. What about you, Kate?
Well, just the last, remember how yesterday I was complaining my liver was acting up?
Oh, yeah.
I have no idea why.
Your liver.
Okay.
I told Justin yesterday on the way into the health food store, I felt like my liver was hardening. How weird is that? I don't know what that means, but it felt like it.
Well, drinking will tend to do that, or exposure to certain chemicals and things. Do you have any pain right now?
No, it's not really pain, but it's funny. My liver just feels like it's like hard. It's very strange.
Really?
I am around chemicals, unfortunately, a lot of the time, even though I'm trying to, decrease that. But I do work in a hair salon, so I have some weird things flare up.
Yeah. Well, I would I'd be careful about that because the liver can get hard from chemicals. I mean, the most common thing is just alcohol. People, of course, alcoholics, develop cirrhosis and the liver hardens, and it changes from that purple color to kind of a greenish yellow. I've seen livers like this, and they actually they become in texture kind of like a summer squash. They get hard and greenish yellow and bumpy, and yeah. So you want to be careful about that. But I can show you. We can tune in and just see.
Sure.
Let's do this using the body code.
Sure.
So here's how this works. By the way, welcome to the 21st century. We know now that we can do this work at any distance, and we have. We actually certify people to do this work. We have about 1,200 people now certified to do the emotion code in 39 countries. And most of them have clientele that are in other countries as well as their own country, because this work is done at a distance as well as in person. But what we like to do first, before we start with somebody, is we like to just take a moment and make a connection with that higher power and ask for help, because that's where the healing power comes from. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Give me just a second here. All right, let's see, Kate. Let's ask this question. Do we have a good connection with you? Okay, can I act as proxy for you? And I'm getting a yes there. I'm muscle testing myself, okay? Anybody can do this. There's nothing magical about me doing this. So I'm muscle testing, I'm getting strong answers. Strong answers on muscle testing mean yes. Weak answers mean no. And we're connected up right now.
Okay.
And so let's ask this question, okay? Is your liver happy? And the answer there is no. Now, let me explain. That might sound funny, okay?
Okay.
But what I believe is that everything was created to have joy in its own sphere, in its own existence, okay? And our bodies are that way, but the organs and glands in the body were looked at anciently by the ancient healers as separate intelligences. And I believe that was absolutely the right way to look at things. Every organ has its own intelligence, not that it could pass the SAT, but every organ and gland is either in a state of contentment or discontentment. They're either happy or they're not. If an organ is happy, and by the way, this is true preventative medicine, because we can find an organ that is imbalanced by asking if it's happy decades before it would ever show up.
Really?
Some kind of a medical test. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So here's how we do this. We ask, oh, I'm sorry, I've got a phone that's ringing.
Oh, no.
And let me just turn that off.
It's my liver calling you.
Someone's trying to get hold of me. Sorry.
No.
Okay, so here we go. Let's ask this question. Is your liver happy? And the answer there is definitely no. Now, what's going to happen when the liver isn't happy is you're going to tend to get tightening of the and misalignments of the upper back right in between the shoulder blades. That's typically where this happens. Okay. So if you've been feeling some discomfort in that area, if you got pain in that area, then it's almost always liver imbalance. Okay. But that's what's coming down the road for you if it's not yet making itself known.
Okay.
So let's ask this question, okay? How we do this is we look at the body code map. Now, this is a mind map, okay? There are 260 pages in this mind map, and I'm only looking at one at a time. And there are, on this first page, I'm looking at the 6 different kinds of imbalance. Now, if you go to bodycodehealing.com, then you can get a picture of what this mind mapping looks like. But anyway, your subconscious mind knows exactly what's going on with your liver in absolute detail, down to the cellular level and even beyond that, okay, down to the energetic, down to the quantum level. So I'm connected up with you energetically. The subconscious mind has this amazing ability to set aside its own needs and act as proxy on behalf of somebody else. And so that's what we're doing. So I'm testing you remotely. I have no idea where you are. It doesn't make any difference. You could be, on the moon, probably. Doesn't matter. We've never tried that.
I might
we have done this all over the world.
Wow. So
here we go. Is there an underlying reason why your liver's not happy? And the answer there is yes. Okay, I'm looking at the 6 imbalances, and I'm going to simply ask, is this first imbalance, now there may be more, but this first reason, is it on the right side of our chart? The answer there is no. So it's on the left side of our chart. So we've eliminated half of the issues, and now we're looking at energies, circuits, or toxicity. And is it something in the energy area? Yes. Okay, so that's the first area. So is it something emotional? And the answer there is yes. It's some kind of an emotion. It's a trapped emotion. So we have a chart of emotions here, and this is the emotion code that we're doing right now. And this first emotion, by the way, there's 60 emotions on this chart. It's divided into 2 columns and 6 rows. Watch how quickly we can find the emotion, okay? It's very fast. Is it in column A, this emotion? I'm getting a no answer. We've just eliminated 30 out of 60, right?
Right.
Now we know it's in column B. So is it in one of the odd rows? We'll test those 15. The answer there is no. So now we know it's in one of the even rows, row 2, 4, or 6. Is it in row 2 or 4? It's in row 6. So we now have 5 emotions left out of 50. We have eliminated 55 just that quickly. So is the emotion pride? Is it shame or shock? Is it unworthy or worthless? Guess what? Your body is saying it isn't any of those, and that's how your subconscious mind reveals to us that this is actually something that's inherited. At the moment of conception, you can receive emotional energy from your mom or your dad. They might have gotten it at their moment of conception from their mom or dad. These can go back generations, but this is something that was inherited, first of all. Now, you may have beauty shop toxins in your liver, but that may show up later. Right now, your subconscious is saying, hey, I have an energy that was passed to me at conception from mom, or let's see, where'd you get this from? Did it come from mom? Came from dad? Got it from your dad. Did your dad get it from somebody earlier? He did. Did he get it from his dad or from his mom? He got it from his mom. Did she get it from somebody earlier? No. Okay, now remember, I'm muscle testing, getting yeses or nos, strong or weak on the testing to get these answers. So you got this from your dad at conception. He got it from his mom at conception. What's the emotion? The inherited emotion, is it pride? Is it inherited shame or inherited shock or inherited unworthy? The emotion is an inherited emotion of feeling unworthy, not worthy enough, not good enough to have something.
Wow.
Okay? That was passed down to you. Now, that energy is actually lodged in the liver. Remember that a trapped emotion is literally a ball of energy from about the size of a baseball to about the size of a cantaloupe, and wherever these things lodge, they will distort the normal energy field of the body. And listen, Kate, that's all your body is, right? It's just an energy field when you get right down to it. Mm-hmm. Your liver looks solid, but if you look at it, at the quantum level, it's really just energy. And so this is an energy that's been imbalancing your liver from the day you were born, and even earlier, from the moment you were conceived. And as soon as you developed a liver, it started being imbalanced.
Gosh.
Wow.
So here we go. Let's do this now. Now, I want you to think about something. Imagine if you're dealing with something like hepatitis C, for example, or let's say that you're just trying to get healthy, and you're dealing with chronic fatigue. Well, your liver is a big part of your immune system, and it detoxifies you, see? So if you have an emotion that's trapped in your liver, well, all the chemical reactions taking place in that liver are going to be a little bit off. The liver is not going to be as healthy as it could be. Things are not going to work as well as they should. And so you're not going to be as healthy as you should be. So do you see why removing something like this can be so important?
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So here we go. I'm going to release this right now. The way we release these inherited emotions, I'm just taking my fingertips and I'm putting them right in the middle of my forehead. And then I'm just passing those fingertips over the top of my head and down the back of my neck. And I'm doing that 10 times. What I'm doing is I'm putting energy into the governing meridian, which starts at the upper lip and flows over the top of the head and goes all the way down the back to the tailbone. And what we have found is that this meridian is a great way to simply put energy and intention into the body and release these energies. So let's see, here we go. All right, let's ask if we have released that inherited emotion of unworthy from you. Yes. Now, check this out. Did this also release from your father? Very strong, yes. Did that also release from his mother? Very strong, yes. Now, what we find is that even if these go back many generations, no matter how many generations they go back, and usually it's 2 or 3, I had an emotion of hopelessness that had been passed down to me from 22 generations back.
And 22.
How do you know that?
And it getting rid of that one changed my life, because I had this background feeling of hopelessness that I could never really put my finger on. I just knew that I struggled with that until that was released.
Hey, Dr. Nelson, how did you know that was 22 generations past?
Well, in the same way that I was able to figure out just now that Kate got this trapped emotion from her father, who got it from his mother, just by asking. And actually, I didn't clear it on myself. My daughter was working on me remotely, and she's about 1,500 miles away in Seattle from where I live. And she found that I had this inherited emotion. So she started tracing it back and doing the testing. She found I got it from my dad, and then he got it from his mom, and it stayed in the mother's line all the way back 22 generations. Now listen to this. And this might sound strange to you, but this is the kind of thing that we're seeing all the time. The moment she found where this emotion originated, she suddenly could feel the presence of that grandmother right there, standing right next to her. And she could feel her emotions. She could feel how desperate she was to have this energy released from her posterity, because that's what she passed on to her posterity, this terrible emotion of hopelessness that had affected so many generations. It must have been so powerful in her life. She lived probably in the 1500s. We don't really know, but life, I'm sure, was difficult. We don't know what happened with her. But my daughter could also feel how overwhelmed with gratitude this woman was, that this energy was being released from her posterity. But see, when my daughter released it, she could feel it ripple through all of those intervening generations all the way back. And that's what we find with this. It's one of the most exciting aspects, really, of this work. And so sometimes we wonder, why do I struggle with certain things? Or why do I have my mom's anger or my dad's depression? And a lot of the time, it's inherited emotional baggage that you have that you need to get rid of. And with the emotion code, we now have this incredibly simple, unbelievably fast way to just find it and get rid of it.
I love it. Dr. Nelson, we got to take a quick little break here. Really fascinating stuff. Oh my gosh, this is just amazing.
I could talk for hours on this stuff.
We're with Dr. Bradley Nelson, and you can check out his website. The one he mentioned most recently was bodycodehealingsystem.com. And go ahead and check that out, as well as drbradleynelson.com and theemotioncode.com as well. And we'll be right back after this break. So it's been so much fun for my wife and I to put together this website with all of the articles and the transcriptions and the store and the shows for you. It's been really, really great. And if you would like to support us, we've got a really great store on our website. And we do it mostly through affiliations with products that we really, really believe in. And we search out and do a lot of research before we put any of these products on the store. So if you go to extremehealthradio.com/store, there's a little welcome video from me there, and you can learn more about what we're about and how we've chosen the products to be in our store. But we've got all kinds of great things, like a ton of DVDs that you can check out in all different tabs, as well as products for certain conditions like yeast infection and cancer and your own blood tests. And we've got physical products and digital products and diet products where you can learn about the paleo diet and different summits, the Real Food Summit and the Perfect Digestion Plan. And we've got all kinds of different things for fitness as well. We sell yoga trapezes and yoga courses and qigong courses does really, really high quality stuff in pregnancy products and food prep products if you're interested in learning how to cook real food, as well as a really great raw food prep program. And we've also sell lots of different herbs and supplements through Mountain Rose Herbs and Surthrival and protein powders and blenders and dehydrators and all kinds of really, really great products. And I like the fermentation products too, where we've got courses on how to ferment anything, and you can buy fermentation products, physical products like fermentation crocks, and we've got a whole line of survival products and, like I said, blenders and juicers and rebounders and water purification systems and chemical-free glass cookware and all kinds of really great stuff. So if you're interested in supporting us, check out our store. We've got lots of high-quality products that are handpicked by me to be in here. And like I said, we do lots of research before we put any of these products in our store. So check it out, extremehealthradio.com/store. So thanks for listening, and let's get back to the show.
All free shows, all the time on Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Join our community today. Sign up to our email list and instantly get our free gift to you, along with loads of inspirational content and cutting-edge tips to help change your life at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe.
So during the break, Kate and I were just having an interesting talk about everything that Dr. Bradley Nelson was discussing in your life.
I can see how the unworthy, once you kind of shed some light on what that might be, you can go, you can
start piecing together some puzzles.
Yeah.
Puzzle pieces.
It's going to give me a lot to journal on and chew on later. So Dr. Nelson, thank you so much for spending that time. And I think it's really great to give people an example of what that looks like. And
Absolutely.
I'm really grateful. Thank you very much.
Sure, you're welcome. Now listen, one of the things I want to point out is that when we release a trapped emotion like this, there is always a period of processing that goes on. Mm-hmm. Typically lasts for a day or so. Uh-huh. Most of the time, most people don't notice any symptoms from it. But about 20% of the time when people are going through the processing, they might experience some symptoms, like they might cry more easily, or they might feel a little more emotionally up and down. Just be aware that might happen.
Okay. That's good to know.
Interesting. And so now getting back a little bit to the emotional eating, I know we're kind of running out of time, Doctor. Are you available if we want to go a little bit beyond the normal hour?
Oh, sure, if you want.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I didn't want to be too rushed, because I know that the other part of the topic of this particular show was the emotional eating.
Right.
And that's a huge issue with people, with their addictions and all that kind of thing. What kinds of results and kinds of things have you seen people when they're emotionally eating?
Well, let me just say this, that what drives emotional eating most of the time, 90% of what is driving emotional eating is actually emotional baggage, trapped emotions. And those emotions can be released, but those emotions influence our behavior in really dramatic ways. For example, okay, I have seen people who have, for example, who have had eating disorders. Okay, people with bulimia. I've seen people get well in short order, as well as all kinds of other issues like anxiety and panic attacks and phobias and depression and so on. So here's how this can happen. Okay, let's imagine that you're going through a divorce. Okay, and you develop some trapped emotions of frustration and anger and depression and so on. What can happen then later is those emotions will tend to make their presence felt in your life. And here's how this works, okay? Mm-hmm. What happens is when you have a trapped emotion, you think of this. It's literally a ball of emotional energy that is in your body. Now, we can't image these yet. We don't have the technology, but I'm sure that eventually we will. But what happens is these trapped emotions have two effects on us. They affect us physically because they distort the normal energy field of the body, and that eventually can create pain and malfunction. Mm-hmm. But they also affect us in an emotional way. So that, let's say you have a trapped emotion of depression. If a situation arises where you might tend to become depressed, you will become depressed much more easily, much more readily than you otherwise would have, because literally part of your body is vibrating at that emotional resonance or that frequency. You see, every emotion has its own specific frequency of vibration.
Okay.
And so it makes it easy to fall into that feeling. And so what happens is these emotions tend to drive our behaviors. And one of the most common ways of dealing with emotions that we don't want or that are uncomfortable is to eat. Because eating it's always available. We're always doing it, but things are always, there's always something that we can eat. And so it's an easy way for us to deal with it. It's harder to go out and run. It's harder to go and play basketball or do some kind of exercise. It's a more difficult thing to do a lot of those other behaviors that are great. Eating is easy. And that's why it's so common.
Okay.
Is because it's such a common denominator for so many people.
Right.
And the emotional energies drive it.
And so these emotional energies are there most likely from issues that could have been going back, like with Kate and other people, many generations. And these are now stemming and popping up for people. And then they turn to food.
That's exactly right. I mean, most of the trapped emotions that people have are from their own lifetime.
Okay.
We typically see I'd say on average, about one inherited emotion for every 9 or so that we see that are from a person's lifetime. But you never know.
Interesting.
Some people have more inherited emotions than others.
Interesting. Okay, and so now when people are grabbing and they want to grab that donut or whatever it is they want to eat, when they're feeling a certain way, perhaps they're depressed or whatever, what are some things they could do right then and there, or should they just work on a different level with their emotions?
Well, one of the most important things, of course, that you can do, I think the most important thing you can do is find and get rid of the emotional baggage.
Okay?
But there are some other things that you can actually do. One of the things that you can do, first of all, is, and we teach this to people, especially after they've released their emotional baggage, one thing that you can do is you can think about the emotions that you're experiencing right now, okay? So what are you feeling when you're going to grab that entire pie that you're going to eat, or that whole bag of chocolates or whatever it is? Stop for a moment and think about the emotions that are driving that. What is it that you're feeling exactly? Try to identify those emotions. They're negative emotions in all cases that we've seen. They're always negative emotions. And if you can identify what those emotions are, that's a huge step. When we start to feel an emotion, a lot of the time we have a tendency to think that those emotions are choosing us, that we are powerless, and that we're the victim of those emotions. But the reality is, in every case, we have the power to choose the emotions that we want to experience. Now, it's true that emotions do tend to naturally come up. But if you stop and you identify what you're feeling, and you allow yourself to feel it a little bit, you can then choose from the whole array, the whole palette of positive emotions. My wife and I have done this a lot. We have 7 kids, and so, as you might imagine, we've had some emotional events. And so what we would tend to do is we would often choose the emotion of curiosity. And I would say to her something like, well, honey, how long do you think this behavior is going to go on? And she would say, well, I don't know. I'm curious. Do you think we'll still be doing this when he's 50? I don't know. And we'd be curious instead of getting angry and upset. And it sounds funny, but it's really true. Now, another thing that's really important and that leads to a lot of emotional eating is forgiveness, or the lack thereof. A lot of the time what happens to us is that we are holding some kind of negative energy about someone in our life that has wronged us or hurt us or something. Okay. And so we withhold forgiveness from that person. And we do that in an attempt, kind of a childish attempt really, to get even with that person. The reality, though, is that only hurts us. And what we have found is that a lot of the time, that's one of the triggers for emotional eating. And so what we have found is that you can't have peace really in your life unless you forgive that person. And you can't lie about forgiveness. You have to really, truly forgive that person. And what we find, though, that's interesting, Justin and Kate, is that when you release the trapped emotions that are around that person or around that event, whatever it was, what we find is that when you take that energy out of it, people are often able to forgive who could not bring themselves to forgive before. And it's a really interesting thing. So we've often said that the emotion code greases the skids for people to be able to forgive. And then, and one of the things that you can do, if there's somebody like that in your life, you can write them a letter. You don't send it to them generally. You write a letter, write down everything that they've done, every way that it hurt you, and then take it outside and light it up and burn it and send it out into the universe. And that's really therapeutic also.
Yeah, I've heard people using that technique, and I would imagine that releasing those emotions through writing like that would be very powerful.
Yeah, it's something that really helps. And then another thing that you can do, once you've really truly forgiven that person, you need to speak that forgiveness to other people. You need to let someone else know, hey, this is where I was, and guess what? I've actually forgiven. And there's so much peace that comes into your life when you're able to forgive. It's a wonderful thing. The emotional baggage that we have really is the biggest driver of emotional eating.
Now, if someone has emotional baggage, which I'm sure most of us do, is this something that we need to work on a continual basis, or are there certain emotions like, say, forgiveness, like you just mentioned? Can you clear that out, and is that kind of done for a lifetime, or is this a continual work people should do?
Well, I'll tell you what we have found is that the average person, we think, has about one trapped emotion. If they're an adult, they typically will have about one trapped emotion for each day of the year. So in other words, the average person has about 300 or so trapped emotions.
Okay.
Now, there will be a small percentage of those emotions that are really powerful and that are really causing the major behavioral issues for you and your self-sabotage, your phobias, panic attacks, depression, anxiety, etc., physical problems, diseases, and so on. Listen, every cancer I've ever seen, always, they always have trapped emotions as part of that. So trapped emotions are they're a contributing factor to every disease that we experience. So what we find is that when you start working with these, and it's great to be able to learn how to do the emotion code yourself, because once you get to a point where you have cleared out all your trapped emotions, which most people, it takes a few months to get to that point. After that, then when they go through some kind of an emotional event that's difficult, then what they'll do is they'll just check and see if they've picked up a trapped emotion from that event, and then if they do, they just immediately clear it. Let me tell you something. Raising kids and having the emotion code has been absolutely a game changer for us. Our kids range from 13 to 29, and knowing these methods made all of the difference in the world. In fact, let me tell you one quick story. And I realize this isn't about emotional eating, but it is about emotional baggage. And it is our emotional baggage that drives so many of these problems. Our son, we have twin boys that are 24 years old now, but when they were about 4 years old, the younger one really had a problem with speech. He wouldn't talk. He didn't speak more than one word at a time, and he would cover his mouth a lot, and we just didn't know what was wrong with him. And his speech was kind of odd. We took him to a hearing specialist. They checked his hearing. Nothing wrong with his hearing. Everything was fine. And had some other people look at him. We couldn't figure out what was wrong. We were just learning about trapped emotions at that point. And so one day, we actually worked on him. He was asleep, but the subconscious mind never sleeps. And so that's what we're tapping into.
Okay.
So we were able to work on him. I used my wife as a surrogate. So basically what that means is that we were able to muscle test by testing her. She was touching him. That energy would just flow through, and the answers that I was asking of his subconscious would manifest on her arm, stretched out, either being strong for yes or weak for no. So we were able to test him when he was asleep, and we found that he had inherited anger from his grandfather, who was an absolute rageaholic. We were able to clear that out, And the reason why he covered his mouth was because he was afraid he was going to hurt somebody, see, when he was speaking. He was afraid he was going to hurt somebody with his words. He was only 4 years old. This kid had never spoken a full sentence. We cleared a couple of other things on him, and he never even knew it. He was asleep. The next morning at breakfast, you guys, that kid was a chatterbox. My wife and I were just open mouthed staring at each other. He was speaking in full sentences. It was absolutely unbelievable.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's amazing.
That's unreal.
Okay, so as we're listening, Kate and I were just curious about the body code system. How is that different than the emotion code? Is the emotion code just kind of a book to introduce people to this subject matter, and then the body code system is how they can apply the principles in their life?
Well, the emotion code is part of the body code. Most of the problems that we have are actually caused by our emotional baggage. And that's why I wrote the Emotion Code book and put it out there first. It was published in 2007. And if you use the emotion code and you learn the emotion code, you can do amazing things to help your family. You can get people out of pain. You can help people to recover from all kinds of different problems. And the body code is the big kahuna. I mean, in other words, the emotion code is part of the body code. When I was talking about the 6 different kinds of imbalances that happen to us, the body code is really all about all of those different kinds of imbalances and what those imbalances are and how to find those imbalances and fix those. Because even though 80% of our trouble is caused by our trapped emotions, the reality is that there are other issues as well. And those are the things that I talked about. The toxicity, for example. If you've got heavy metal toxicity, you can release your trapped emotions, but you do something to get rid of that heavy metal toxicity. If you've got a parasite, well, you need to figure out what to do for that. If you've got a viral infection, same thing. If your body's misaligned in some way, using the body code, you can figure out what that is and you can correct that. And it's not that we're trying to teach people to be chiropractors, but what we have found is that you can correct most of the things that are going on in your body, in your husband's body, in your wife's body, in your kids' bodies, in your parents' and your loved ones' bodies. You can help them. You can help them. And you see, healthcare today is kind of, it's not really healthcare, it's sickness care. I mean, if you have some kind of a symptom, what's going to happen? Well, you go to the doctor, he's going to recommend some kind of a toxic chemical for you. I mean, that's reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so is that really what you want? The reality is that there is so much that you can do to help yourself. And that's not to say that sometimes medication is really appropriate. And I'm truly grateful that we have the medical profession, and the things that they do are astonishing. I mean, they do amazing, miraculous stuff. But most of the time, that's not really what you need. Most of the time, you've got problems that are resulting from, maybe you've got a low-grade pathogen, maybe you're misaligned, maybe you're deficient in some nutrient, or you're toxic, or you've got a little acupuncture imbalance or something, or you've got some trapped emotions. And you can find those things using the body code. The body code is something I've told people before, you could spend $150,000 and go to school and become a natural doctor. When you get out, you'd still need the body code if you want to really have all that big picture information of how to find and fix these things. There's nothing else like it in the whole world. I mean, patent pending. It's an amazing, amazing system. And if you go to bodycodehealing.com or bodycodehealingsystem.com, it's the same site.
Okay.
There are some videos on there where you can actually see how the body code works and how we can find these imbalances so rapidly. I mean, it's really just astonishing. And this is the exact system that I used when I was in practice. And most of the patients that I saw, especially for the last 10 years of practice, had been told there was no cure for them. And yet I was able to routinely get these people well because I knew the secret. And the secret is that the subconscious mind of the individual has all the information. It's this incredible database. It's totally willing to be accessed. It'll give you its secrets. It'll tell you what the person needs. And so what better way could there possibly be to tap in to the subconscious mind of the person? I used to tell my patients, I joke with them and I say, look, I'm pretty much clueless about what you need, but your subconscious mind luckily knows exactly what you need, and I know how to tap into that. So as a holistic physician, I cannot possibly imagine a better thing to have than the ability to tap into the subconscious mind. And we teach in the body code and in the emotion code as well a whole bunch of different ways of tapping into the subconscious that are really, really simple that anybody can learn. And and you can also become certified in this.
Yeah,
like I said, we've got over 1,200 practitioners in 39 countries now that are doing this work. And
so, Dr. Nelson, if someone wants to become certified, where would they go for that?
If you're interested in getting certified, we have 2 levels of certification. And by the way, the third certification is all done entirely online.
Okay.
And it's very, very popular. You can get certified in the emotion code. You can go to, let me see here. You can go to healerslibrary.com.
Okay.
And let's see here. Yes, healerslibrary.com is a great place to go. And you can look it up there. Being certification in the emotion code is really inexpensive. It's a program you can take up to 6 months to do it. You work on 30 individuals. 4 of those individuals have to be animals, okay? Because we want you to get that experience, and it's amazing and really fun to do that.
Interesting.
And the program is $997 for the certification, which is so much cheaper. Actually, right now it's on sale for only $497. Most certification programs like this that honestly aren't anywhere near as good require all kinds of traveling, and you can spend up to $10,000 to become certified in some kind of an energy healing method. And typically the feedback that we get from people who have been to those other programs will tell us, my gosh, I wish I would have known about this. I could have saved, thousands and thousands of dollars. Plus, this is so much easier and so much more effective. It's mind-blowing. It really, truly is. So healerslibrary.com is the place to go if you want to find out more information about getting certified.
Okay, excellent. And people can go on to healerslibrary.com, or the one I was just on while you were talking was the body code. It's bodycodehealingsystem.com. Is that right? Bodycodehealingsystem.com.
Yes, and that site is just about the body code itself and about that study course. It's the most powerful, most advanced self-study course on energy healing that has ever been devised. And you can become certified in the body code, but becoming certified in the emotion code is a prerequisite to that. But now I want you to think about how exciting this is. See, we live in a day and age now where suddenly we're in the 21st century, and suddenly we have the ability now to get all of our training to become an energy healer totally online. And then we can actually create a little business where we can work with people that are in other countries if we want to, and or anywhere literally around the world. We can have clientele that spans the globe, and they can call us on Skype on our computer. We can work on them for 20 minutes or half an hour, and we can work for, imagine working 3 days a week from 8 to noon and making all the money that you need to make. And the rest of the time you're totally free, and you're making friends all over the world, and you're healing people, and literally you're changing people's lives all over the world. And that's what's happening with these practitioners. I mean, it's just absolutely mind-blowing. That's what's happening.
I love it.
On all levels.
What about if people want to find a practitioner in their area? Is that healerslibrary.com?
Yeah, if you go to healerslibrary.com, there's a little button there called Find a Practitioner.
Okay.
And you can see we have practitioners all over the world. It pops up a Google map, and you can just look at that map and you can find somebody that you'd like to work with. We also have staff practitioners, and you can read about our practitioners as well. We have a lot of them are featured. We have what we call a practitioner spotlight that we do almost every week.
Okay.
And we spotlight different people from all over the world. It's fascinating to read the stories of these people. And in every one of these practitioner spotlights, they talk about some amazing experience that they have had. And these are people literally from all over the world. It's just so much fun.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm looking at the map now, and like you said, I'm seeing little indicators all over the world.
Yep.
This is great. Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Nelson, for being on the show. This is just
and for doing what you do.
Yeah, I really loved it.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks so much for having me on the show. And, I'd be happy to be on again if you guys want me to come back anytime. we can talk about, we could do a whole show just on inherited emotions, or we could do a show just on animals, or just a show on whatever you want. The heart wall.
I would love that.
I would love that.
That'd be excellent.
Finding your soulmate.
Ooh.
That'd be amazing.
There you go.
And that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
One of the biggest deals in this life. Dr. Nelson, you rock.
Thank you so much.
You really do. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much. Well, you guys do too. Hey.
Well,
thank you.
We're all in this together.
Well, thanks, Doc, for being on the show. That was so much fun.
Such great information.
Yeah, we're such fans of what you're doing, so thank you.
Oh, that's so great. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to get the word out to people, and you guys just let me know. Feel free to call me or Skype me anytime. And
I would love that, and we should get you back on again. We'll schedule another show. This is good stuff.
And you know what? A lot of people that write to me personally always wonder about the energy type healing with the animals. I think that would be
that'd be a good show.
Huge show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be really fun, because a lot of people will do more to help their animals than they will to help themselves.
Isn't it true? It's so true.
Really weird.
Yeah. Well, they connect with animals in a way that I think is just so
different.
Soul connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
That's
great.
true.
Thank you so much for your offer. That's fabulous.
Okay. Well, you two have a great day.
Okay,
Thanks,
thanks
you
a lot,
too.
Doc.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, Dr. Bradley Nelson was fascinating once again, wasn't he?
I love how he said welcome to the 21st century. This is stuff that you could not have imagined. I mean, if someone would have told us this 50 years ago, you'd think this stuff alone was the Jetsons.
Oh, yeah.
But it's everything I learned from any guest we have on. It's like, I can't believe you can do this stuff and that it actually works. And not only from remote distances, which is trippy in itself, but just the content of what is being spoken and what is being done and what is being healed and released just blows my mind.
I know, doesn't it?
Blows my mind.
You know what I love too is it really interesting what he was saying about how each organ has its own almost energy system, or each organ has its own kind of mindset, and it's just fascinating. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, to think that. I mean, I think that probably in 100 years, 200 years, there might be equipment that can detect, like he was saying, these trapped emotions in the body and things like that.
And in organs and things.
But I think now it's just, the technology is not there. So this kind of information, I feel like, is ahead of its time.
I do too. It's very cutting edge. And he is right in the fact that no one else, he tapped into something on a different level, and between the emotion code and the body code, it's just hasn't been done before, really, in this way.
What this whole thing is about is stress management, right?
It is.
I mean, it's not letting stressful situations burrow deep and sort of corkscrew into your tissue like a parasite, and preventing it from doing that. So that, because think about it, I mean, whenever we are exposed to the same stressors, our reactions are always the same.
Yeah, you go right back to that pattern.
You go right back to whatever pattern you set up when you first were exposed to that.
Yeah.
And you just repeat that pattern. It's like people say, 90% of the thoughts we have are just thoughts that we've had the day before.
Sure.
They're all, we just think about the same.
Well, right. And that's proven by the charts of your brain that have grooves in them from
That's right.
repetitive worry and anxiety and, that kind of thing.
And so this kind of thing is like, it's good. It's almost unwinding all that stuff out.
Yeah, it's pulling the thing out of the cork.
And I think it was in episode 87, he talked about how these balls of energy actually are inside the organs or next to the organs, and they can actually change the shape of the organ itself. So like he was talking about today, how the heart can be out of alignment or out of place, but these balls of energy can actually change the physical shape of an organ. So
when you said they could take up so much space, whether it be a lemon or a cantaloupe, I mean, there's actual spatial changes.
I wonder if that's
in your body.
It just occurred to me now. I wonder if that's how people, like you feel when you get bloated and things.
Oh. Well, I know that I carry my stress in my stomach, so sure. I mean, maybe it's a physical. We always think that it's just like, oh, I'm stressed out. It's making my stomach uneasy. Maybe that's what's actually happening. I have no idea.
I know, right?
Man, I wish we had Dr. Nelson just in our room here the whole time in our studio. We could just ask him as these questions arise.
I know. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So if you want to check out the information that he talked about, you can go to healerslibrary.com, or you can just go to any of the links on this show page. It might be better just to refer back to this particular show page, extremehealthradio.com/150. And we'll have all the links for all of his websites and all that kind of stuff on this show page. So it might be easier for people.
Yeah, I took a lot of notes on this one too.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Wow.
Me and my worthy liver now are going to go eat some fruit.
I know. It's time for some breakfast.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us on this episode. What a great show this was. And hopefully you got some insight into some unique things happening in your life through Dr. Bradley Nelson and Healers Library. So thank you so much for joining the show and being on, listening to us. And if you enjoyed it, would you do us a favor and perhaps send it to your friends on Facebook? You can always go back to this show, page 150, and hit the like button, or share our particular Facebook site to your friends, and maybe suggest it to your friends to like and things like that.
I don't know who would not benefit from it. Everybody, I mean, we've all got stuff.
Yeah.
Chickens have stuff.
Yeah.
Imagine what people have. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a wild
so
thing.
if you enjoyed the show, please pass it on. Please send it to your friends, family, anything. That would be a huge help to us. And that way the show will remain free. We'll never have to charge a monthly fee for it. So I want to thank you for being on the show. And if there's anything we can do for you, let us know. You can email us, Justin at extremehealthradio.com.
Or Kate, Kate at extremehealthradio.com.
And it's time for us to go see if our dog will give up her bone.
Oh gosh, one of those again.
She strolled in the studio during the interview, didn't she?
Couldn't believe it. After a day and a half, she made an appearance and then wandered back out. When we give that dog a bone, she guards it like it's her baby.
Oh my gosh, she is so funny. The way she growls.
Oh, Maggie.
Oh my gosh.
Primal.
Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. We're going to go make smoothies and juices or whatever we're going to do.
And maybe attempt to try out the emotion code on Maggie.
We should. That would be awesome. We should do it. All right, guys, thanks so much. And we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
It's time to go for now, but our mission does not end with this show.
Justin and Kate will be back with another interview packed full of ideas, discoveries, and unique ways to regain your health.
Head on over to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe and instantly download our free gift too that contains cutting-edge strategies to start making healthy lifestyle changes today.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even as you educate yourself in the field of live food nutrition and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers or listeners medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog and during this podcast is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any of the information on this podcast or in this blog, or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment or cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be construed as such. Always work with a